Mark Bradford, fast downwind running, a little unusual.
Yeah, you'd think that. I mean, I've run into a few people, it's their first race, and I remember my first race was a downwind race. In fact, I think my first 5 were downwind races. So you can get a downwind race in the Sydney to Hobart. It's not always upwind, although last year was, which is great. So is it the same, or is it same but different?
And you were saying earlier you weren't quite sure how to win, so what's it mean for the lean cohort when perhaps this really works best for the wide guys?
Well, look, this is a really interesting thing, and we talked about this last year with downwind sails and different configurations. The boats are going to sail on different paths to get there, but it's all about what's called VMG, which is velocity made good, or the fastest way for your boat to get from A to B. So we'll see Comanche leave the heads and sail like a 135 true wind angle and head a little offshore, and we'll see Wild Oats trying to soak and sail a 155 true wind angle. We'll sit somewhere in the middle, a little lower than Law Connect, but somewhere in the middle. I think you'll find us all getting to Tasman Light at exactly the same time, to be fair.
And for the skinnier boats, I guess having the wind directly behind you is more favourable than if it's slightly on the quarter there, is that right?
Yeah, look, so what it's about is the time on the other jibe to come back. So Comanche and Law Connect are boats, we had a Volvo 70, so we're familiar with those style of boats. If it's a straight leg from A to B, you'll never beat them. But as soon as you've got to spend time on each jibe, our boats are designed as windward leeward boats, so then their time back is coming back to our line, if that makes sense. So basically they turn 90 degrees to what is the proper course to come back to us. So the soaking road is definitely going to be, we believe, the key here. There's a few tricks to the
And by soaking, you're meaning just basically just getting lower angles?
Yeah, it's just sailing a wider wind angle. That said, in the downtime of COVID, we developed our sail program a lot. I sort of feel like the other skinny boat isn't quite where we're at in terms of the thinking, but we're going to validate that with a whole day of sailing side by side with very different sail configurations. I can't tell you how I know that.
The eddy off the south coast, does that make any difference to plan?
Oh yeah, look, I mean, you'll see this year, and last year COVID was a big driver, but you'll see this year the heavy-duty navigators are here this year, and they're here for that reason, to manage the race, to manage the eddies, to manage the velocity, to take the shifts when they're required, to step through shifts and get deeper in the next shift. So I think you can just see by just looking on paper who's here, everyone's taking things like eddies very seriously.
And last question, you mentioned the zombie apocalypse. Tell us about that one.
Oh yes, the zombie apocalypse. Now, for anyone who's done the Sydney to Hobart, we'll be able to. You can. We've coined the phrase, but feel free to use it. The zombie apocalypse happens from about 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. on the 27th until the sun up on the 28th of December, and that is 18, 20 tired people. It gets rough. It gets really windy off the end of Tasmania. It's normally the point where you're asking yourself, what am I doing here? And everyone's half asleep. I mean, it's just a zombie apocalypse. What else can you say?
That's perfect. Thanks so much, Mark.